This NASA ESA Hubble Space Telescope image features the field of stars, that is, NGC 1786. The globular cluster is located in the Large Magellanic Cloud, a small satellite galaxy of the Milky Way Galaxy that is approximately 160,000 light-years away from Earth. NGC 1786 itself is in the constellation Dorado. It was discovered in the year 1835 by Sir John Herschel. The data for this image comes from an observing program that compares old globular clusters in nearby dwarf galaxies, the LMC, the Small Magellanic Cloud, and the Fornax dwarf spheroidal galaxy, to globular clusters in the Milky Way Galaxy. Our galaxy contains over 150 of these old, spherical collections of tightly bound stars, which astronomers have studied in depth, especially with Hubble images like this one, which show them in previously unattainable detail. Being very stable and long-lived, globular clusters act as galactic time capsules, preserving stars from the earliest stages of a galaxy's formation. Globular clusters are fascinating for many reasons. One is that they are simple stellar systems compared to the rest of a galaxy. They have a relatively straightforward structure and only contain stars. Well, mostly stars. Globular clusters also preserve a galaxy's history, as we mentioned earlier, because they contain ancient stars that formed during the early days of the universe. Finally, globular clusters serve as testing grounds for models that predict how galaxies evolve because their stars are so tightly packed. Their evolution is faster than that of single stars in the galaxy. Astronomers once thought that stars in a globular cluster all formed together at about the same time. But the study of old globular clusters in our galaxy uncovered multiple populations of stars with different ages. To use globular clusters as historical markers, we must understand how they form and where these stars of varying ages come from. This observing program examined old globular clusters like NGC 1786 in these external galaxies to see if they, too, contain multiple populations of stars. This research can tell us more about how the LMC originally formed, but also the Milky Way Galaxy, too. The local group is a collection of around 50 galaxies that orbit each other near the Milky Way. The three largest galaxies in the local group are the Milky Way, Andromeda, and the Triangulum Galaxy. But the next 5 or 6 largest are dwarf galaxies. In particular, the Large and Small Magellanic Clouds are well-known satellites of the Milky Way. Both of these dwarf galaxies were visited by the James Webb Space Telescope in its early science phase to demonstrate the telescope's capabilities, and Hubble has also observed these two galaxies extensively. The Magellanic Clouds are irregular galaxies, meaning that they do not have a defined shape. The Large Magellanic Cloud is 160,000 light-years from Earth and is the third largest galaxy in the local group. The Small Magellanic Cloud is much closer to the Milky Way than the Large Magellanic Cloud. It is 210,000 light-years from Earth and orbits the Milky Way in a highly elliptical orbit. Because it is less massive than the Large Magellanic Cloud, the Small Magellanic Cloud is affected by the gravitational forces of the Milky Way. As it passes through the disk of the Milky Way every few 100 million years, tidal forces from the Milky Way distort its shape. The LMC, on the other hand, appears to be largely unaffected by the gravitational pull of the Milky Way. Its orbit is almost circular, and it is thought to have formed much earlier than the Small Magellanic Cloud. Globular clusters are extremely dense groups of stars, held together by their mutual gravitational attraction. A typical globular cluster may contain hundreds of thousands or even millions of stars. These star systems are also extremely old. Most of the stars in a globular cluster are likely to be as old as the galaxy itself. Globular clusters are typically found orbiting around the center of a galaxy, and they are usually associated with other types of stellar groupings known as open clusters and associations. Globular clusters are thought to have formed in the early stages of a galaxy's evolution, when the material in the universe was primarily gas. As the gas cooled, it began to collapse under its own gravity, and the densest regions eventually became hot enough to trigger star formation. Once the stars began to form, their gravitational interactions prevented the cloud of gas from collapsing further. Over time, the stars in the globular cluster relaxed into a roughly spherical shape. Globular clusters have been observed in nearly every galaxy that has been examined, including the Milky Way and its satellite galaxies, such as the Magellanic Clouds. In the Milky Way, there are approximately 150 globular clusters that range in age from 10 billion to 13 billion years. There are about 50 globular clusters in the Large Magellanic Cloud and 20 in the Small Magellanic Cloud. Many of these globular clusters were captured in this Hubble image. Some of these star clusters, like NGC 1786, are among the oldest in the universe, dating back nearly 14 billion years. NGC 1786 is also one of the largest globular clusters in the LMC, containing more than 1 million stars. The tight packing of stars in globular clusters provides a variety of astronomical delights for astronomers to study. The combination of age, density, and location makes them ideal targets for telescopes such as Hubble, in addition to capturing these beautiful images. Hubble's sharp vision has revealed details in NGC 1786 that hint at the cluster's violent past and surprisingly young age. The cluster's core, which is home to some of the tightest collections of stars, contains several blue stars. These are stars that appear to be younger than most of the cluster stars. Such stars are thought to have formed when two smaller star clusters merged to form the larger NGC 1786. Some astronomers think that NGC 1786 may also have had run-ins with other globular clusters. If this is the case, it would explain why the cluster has so many blue stragglers and why it has a higher than average percentage of heavy elements. As part of this observing program, Hubble also captured images of NGC 1, NGC 92, and NGC 361. NGC 150 is another large globular cluster in the LMC that contains a lot of young stars. It is thought that this cluster has experienced a major merger event that has rejuvenated the system. NGC 92 is one of the smallest globular clusters in the LMC, but it has a high concentration of bright stars. NGC 361 is the densest globular cluster in the LMC and one of the brightest. It also shows signs of having experienced a merger with another cluster. In addition to imaging these globular clusters, the team also collected data on their velocity dispersion, which is a measure of the spread in velocities of the stars in a cluster. This data will assist in determining the mass of the clusters and the dark matter content of the LMC. When globular clusters were first discovered in the 18th century, they were catalogued by their location in the sky. They were given numbers and names that indicated the constellation in which they were found. The brightest globular clusters were designated with the letters A, B, C, and D, while subsequent discoveries were assigned numbers. This naming convention continues today, and the first for globular clusters to be discovered in the Milky Way still bear their original designations. However, modern astronomers now know that globular clusters are not just collections of old stars, but dynamic systems that have evolved over time. They are no longer simply given a number and a letter, but are instead studied in detail to learn more about their properties and one of the most important advances in our understanding of globular clusters came in the late 1970s when it was discovered that they contain a wide range of ages of stars. This finding revolutionized our understanding of globular cluster formation and evolution. Today, astronomers continue to study globular clusters in order to better understand the formation and evolution of galaxies. In summary, globular clusters are fascinating objects that offer a unique window into the formation and evolution of galaxies. By studying these clusters, astronomers hope to learn more about the history of our own Milky Way and the universe as a whole. Hubble's detailed imaging capabilities have allowed scientists to capture stunning views of these ancient star systems and uncover new insights into their formation and evolution. With continued observation, scientists are sure to make even more exciting discoveries about these fascinating objects. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends and family. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more videos like this one.